So the question today is, how do you know when someone that claims to love you, someone that you're married to, someone that you have invested time and property and children and years and invested pretty much everything with, how do you know when they actually do love you? How do you know when you're being too sensitive? How do you know when you're being played? How do you know when you're being gaslit? How do you know when you're being manipulated? How do you know if the commitment that you have is a commitment that's shared by the other person, not just in words, but in actions? How do you know that they feel what you feel for them just because they make the claim? Especially dealing with narcissists or borderline personality disorder, sociopaths, psychopaths, it can be really hard. They tend to focus on people that are their polar opposites. They tend to focus on people with high degrees of empathy. A lot of times they're actually drawn to them because of their creativity, because of their inspirational powers, because of their ability to relate and to have insight into some areas. But they're mostly drawn to these people because they have all those gifts, but they lack the ability, and I'm talking about empathetic people, tend to lack the ability to recognize a truly gifted manipulator, especially if that gifted manipulator happens to be their spouse, happens to be their boyfriend, their girlfriend, sometimes even a friendship, sometimes a relative. So again, the question is, how can you tell? Because it does matter. There are a few things. One of the key areas that you can hone in on quickly is a single thought. When you find yourself having this thought repeatedly in a relationship of any kind, I would never do that to them. If you keep finding yourself realizing that how they just treated you, what they just said to you, how they just reacted, the excuse that they gave, the reasoning that they offered, the motivation that they showed, when you start to realize that that is a characteristic in a person that you wouldn't show, like if they're insensitive, if when you are asking for something that they don't have to give, and their first argument to you is their right to not give it. Like a manipulator or a narcissist in a relationship, a lot of times you might say, "Hey, can I go have a night out with my friends?" Well, their response might be, "Well, you have a right to go hang out with your friends. You have the freedom to go hang out with your friends. But it would really hurt me because why do you want to be with your friends when you could be with me?" So yeah, you have the right to do it, but it's not right for you to do it because my feelings should mean more to you than your friends. And that tends to be very effective. So you might say, okay, fair enough, I don't agree with it, but I want to make sure that they know that their feelings matter more and that I want to be with them more than my friends. So you say, sorry guys, I can't go tonight. Wife wants to spend some time with me. But then the next time she comes to you and says, hey, a couple of my friends called me and they want to know if we can go see a movie or go see a show and just kind of have a girls' night. Do you care? Well, you might say, wait a minute, but I just asked you that question about having a guys' night and you didn't want me to go. Well, if you're involved with a narcissist, man or a woman, they'll take the same situation, but they'll flip it. And this time it won't be about feelings. This time it'll be about boundaries. And they might say something like, oh, okay, so now you don't want me to go because I was honest with you last time. Or, but you have more friends than me. I wouldn't ask, but you always do something with your friends. I'm only asking this time because I never get to go out. But that's fine. If you don't want me to go, I won't go. So they'll hit you with a guilt trip for making the exact same argument that they made to you. Or they'll flip it. And all of a sudden it won't be about love and it won't be about feelings and it won't be about letting you know that your feelings mean more than their friends. This time it'll be something like, you don't have a right to even ask me that. I have personal boundaries and I have freedoms and I have rights to do things. And if you loved me, you shouldn't even want me to give those things up. You should support me and my friends. You should support what I want to do. You should support me having fun. You should support me being who I want to be. You should support me being me as I am. And if you can't do that, then maybe you don't really love me. Don't you love me? So the common thing will be love. And the common thing about love is that they will use love as the proven evidence that if you love them, you'll always do what they want. Sometimes it'll be about emotion and love and feelings, and right and wrong shouldn't matter. What matters is that you know how I feel and you did it anyway. How could you do that if you love me? But then when that doesn't work in their favor, they'll say, well, feelings shouldn't matter. This is about right and wrong. So they'll flip it. That's one way to know. And the second way to know, and it just fits right in with that, is that it's just unmissable. You know, the truth is, if someone hates you, you'll know it. If someone truly hates you, you'll know it. They'll show it. They'll seize the opportunity to hurt you. They'll seize the opportunity to take advantage of you. They'll do it with glee, and they won't be able to hide it all the time. Though the same is true with love. If you find yourself even questioning it so many times, and you're not a reasonable person, like I'm sure narcissists do the same thing, they'll find themselves questioning it, but they have to throw reason out. They can't actually weigh things in a reasonable way. So it's just emotion. But if you know that you're a fair-minded, balanced person, and yet you find yourself continuously thinking, the way they just treated me, the words they just used, what they just accused me of, the way they torment me, the way they'll make me feel horrible about myself just to win an argument, whatever it might be. If you find yourself consistently saying, I would never do that to them, or not only would you never do that to them, but you might find yourself thinking, as I have in my personal life, many times I've thought, not only would I never do to them what they just did to me, I'd never do that to anybody. I wouldn't take glee in making someone feel horrible, even if I didn't like the person. How could they just make me feel so awful about myself? And they seem to enjoy it. As long as they got their way, they seem to actually enjoy it. So those are the two keys that I would say. If you're in a relationship and you find yourself questioning, does this person love me? Does he or she really love me? And does love to them even mean what it means to me? Like maybe they do love me in their world, according to their definition. But if they define love as someone who just gives me what I want, and I define love as an intimate connection that involves me willingly and happily sacrificing what I want so that I know the other person has what they want, then those two definitions of love don't add up. And one of them is real love, and one of them is a selfish, redefined meaning of the word love. And that won't work either. So those are the two tips, those are the two indicators of how to know if he or she does, in fact, love you. And check back later, and I'll have a couple of more, as well as some information on how to respond, what to say if you want to have a conversation with someone like this that you're in a relationship with, how to phrase the conversation, how to introduce the conversation, strategies to disengage, and strategies to move forward if it goes well. But that's the first thing that I wanted to help you identify is if you're in a relationship that might be toxic and you kind of suspect it, but you're not sure how to know. Those are the first two things to look for. All right, thanks.